This is Abnormal Entertainment.
Can't be heard, can't be seen. Again I'm crying myself to sleep. My heart is pounding, I'm breathing hard. What's so close seems so far. I wanna break through, I wanna be free from this darkness and misery. I'm running away, running away. Struggling to find me.
Hey everybody, this is Danny Barton. Welcome to another episode of Put It Together. I'd like to start, as usual, thanking my producer, Mr. Kevin Morris, for all his help and support. Thank you, sir! And inviting everybody to visit us at abnormalentertainment.com. where you can find all of the shows on the network. Please go check it out. Also, please follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. I kind of forgot where I was going. You can find me at Little Mexican, LILMESICAN. That is my handle. And also, coming soon will be our webpage. Little Mexican Productions will be up in the air pretty soon. You can find it now at littlemexicanproductions.com, but there's nothing in there. But go check it out. At least I'll know you visited. What else? I want to go ahead and get started because I know we're going to have a lot to talk about, and we're not going to have enough time with an hour. One of my favorite people is back on the air. Is back on the show. Hi, Jonathan.
Hello.
How are you?
Good, good.
We're kind of trying to think about when the last time you were, but you've been on the show 4 times. You did Vida Positum when I first started it, and you told your story, and then your mom came on the air too.
Correct, yeah.
I'll repost those. And then you did do my Spanish show. You did Corazón de Mano, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I did that one as well.
And then you came on Put It Together. So you're the only person that I know that's done all 3 shows.
Oh, right. Yeah, no, it's, yeah.
I should send you like a plaque or an award or something.
I'll be waiting for it.
I'll have to create some kind of like a taco, like a golden taco award.
That would be awesome. Just send me like a plate of real tacos and then we're all good.
There you go. So if anybody listening makes it on all 3 shows, you get the Golden Tacos Award.
Nice.
We last saw each other in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
At the conference. I knew you were going, and I actually, I have to confess, because I saw it on your page, and I was like, I want to do that conference. So I stole the page off of there, and I went and Googled it, and I sent in my information, and then I got in, and I didn't really say anything until I was ready to go. Like, I didn't want anybody to know for some reason. I'll take a little moment out of the show for you, but I thought I wasn't going to make it. I thought I was like, these are like big time advocates, because I follow a lot of the people, and of course I knew you. I'm like, these are major people in the HIV advocacy community. Like, there's no way that little me in Laguna Beach is going to make it. And then when I did, I was blown away. It was such a good conference, and I was even more impressed that some people knew who I was, and I was like, oh, you know who I am? You know me?
Right.
Like, it's really cool. Anyway.
Oh, it happens.
Chicago was fun. Let's start kind of from the beginning. For folks that don't remember your story, can you give us a brief of where you come from, who you are, and a little bit?
Yeah, so my name is Joshua Middleton. I was diagnosed...
Is it Jonathan?
Huh?
I called you Jonathan, didn't
I think so.
I think so.
Yes. Well, I know you know my name. So it was just a slip of the tongue. It happens. But as far as my story and everything goes, I was diagnosed with HIV in 2012. I had just gotten out of a relationship with my ex-girlfriend who I was with for about 2 years. I recently ran upon actually messages, and I thought it was we broke up in like January, and then I was diagnosed in June, but we broke up when I was looking at the messages. It's been so long. This is old age happening. But we broke up in about April, May, and then I was diagnosed in June. So it was actually only like a month or a month and a half after after we had broken up that I was diagnosed.
Wow.
I had went in for an appointment with my infectious disease doctor, and so for people wondering why the heck was this guy seeing an infectious disease doctor to begin with, a couple of years prior I'd cut my foot on coral in the Pacific Ocean, lobster fishing. I came down with what's called necrotizing fasciitis, which is pretty much a deep skin, deep muscle, staph infection, that can move pretty quickly and, is pretty fatal. After that, I went into septic shock following into surgery. My blood pressure went in the 20s, followed that by about 2 years where I was hospitalized like 30 through 40 times. I was in the hospital like once or twice a month, for cellulitis, which was just kind of a flare up. My leg would get red, hot, it would swell up, whatnot. And so after, all that time, I was seeing an infectious disease doctor to help me kind of maintain, the situation with my leg. I was fortunate I was seeing him at the time. I went in for a follow-up about my leg. The week prior to going into that appointment, I had taken an HIV test with my primary care doctor. Kind of just took it out of routine. It's something I did every single year, but then at the same time, there was infidelity in the last relationship. So I'm like, hey, well, I don't know, whoever she was with, if he had, HIV or just, it was kind of a precaution type thing. So I went in, did an HIV test, expected a call back within the week, but I didn't get anything. So when I went in for my infectious disease appointment to talk about my leg, he had asked me about my HIV test, which I found odd because he wasn't my primary care doctor, and how the heck did he even know I got tested? But they are connected through the same medical association through Scripps, so they can share information. So my primary care had told him, hey, we take an HIV test. It came back positive. Will you tell him? So he kind of dumped it on my infectious disease doctor to do the dirty work and tell me about my diagnosis. So it kind of threw me completely off guard because I was not expecting the HIV test at all. The results to happen that day. He gave me my diagnosis. I pretty much went into a shock. I mean, I didn't really know kind of like what to feel at the time. It was mainly, there's obviously sadness, anger, confusion, but at the same time, it was more just like a numb feeling of shock because I'd already been through so much before with my leg and, surviving substance abuse in my teenage years and stuff like that. So it was definitely a big shock. After that, I started to reach out for support. I didn't really know what to do. A week after I was diagnosed, I started on treatment, which I continue through the current day, and I'm undetectable today. And then, I started to reach out to advocates, living with HIV. Maria Mejia is a huge advocate, international, and I found her and a couple other advocates, and I really, got educated about HIV. A little too late, but, at the same time, better late than never. And from there, I just kind of started an advocacy because I saw how much it changed my life, having that personal connection with somebody else. And so I wanted to be able to give that to other people as well. And I started an advocacy, and, I continue it through this day.
So, I don't know if I asked this, I'm thinking of questions that I don't think I asked the first time you came on the show, but at the time that you were diagnosed, how much information was there for guys, straight guys, or men, female couples? Like, was there a lot of information? Was it easy to access?
No, there wasn't a lot of information. I mean, I took a human sexuality class a couple years before that in 2009, and it mainly focused on the high risk interactions in between gay males and IV drug users, but it didn't really go into heterosexual risk at all. And so there was definitely a lack of information, on my part, not having access to the information. I mean, I did have some, but it was mainly like, okay, there's a risk, but the risk isn't that big. It didn't really go into much more than that. It was mainly very center focused on, the gay community, because obviously it's a lot higher risk, and then also with the IV drug use. So with heterosexual risk, there wasn't, a lot.
What has been your mental or psychological journey since finding out till today?
It's been a roller coaster. I mean, went from a feeling of being, numb and in shock to kind of just cruising along, doing advocacy. It's been up and down, I mean, in terms of, I've dealt with depression probably ever since, I got out of, my crystal meth abuse when I was in my teenage years. And so I think that really kind of threw things off, but it's been an up and down roller coaster. I mean, I've had times where I felt really good, and then I've had times where I felt really bad. I've had, definitely points in time, like with my most recent relationship with my ex-girlfriend. She had borderline personality disorder. That really affected my depression. Dealing with someone who was actively having suicidal ideations and things of that sort, it really affected my depression. And on top of just the HIV and dating in general, that was definitely hard on my mental health, because despite me being this advocate that was super open with everybody and, just wanting to share their story with the world, when it came to romantic relationships, it was a lot harder to do that.
Can you walk us? Because I know that these guys, from me, have heard of my dating history before Christian, and then trying to meet somebody, and dinner's not ending very well. For a dude, you're meeting a girl, and you're like, she's kind of pretty, and I want to get to know her better. Can you kind of walk us through that conversation?
Well, with my most recent relationship with my ex-girlfriend, she already knew, which was the only relationship dating-wise that I've had since I was diagnosed. But it was, when I date like longer term. So, we were together for like 2.5 years. And so when she found out that I was HIV positive, she actually found out after I was first diagnosed. Okay. We actually worked for the same company at the time. It's a whole other story, but I ended up switching to go to another company, like literally like a month after my diagnosis. So we worked in the same industry, and then later on down the line, years later, somehow our paths crossed again because we worked in the same industry. We're both bail agents. And we went to a party together that they throw every single year for attorneys, bail agents, judges. Pretty much the whole judicial system just gets together to get pretty messed up. It's a whole different aspect to see.
I work for an attorney.
Yeah. So when I went there to the party that night, it was kind of just like she already knew my status and stuff, but so she already kind of knew what she was getting into. She had kind of educated herself about it a little bit. But at that time was when the information was coming out, for example, about like PrEP and, undetectable equals untransmittable, things like that the studies were starting to come out. And so, after we got together, we sat down and I explained, the different options that are available. I said, because in the beginning it was like, hey, condoms, or we are not having sex. Like, there's no way, but then after that, then we started to look at other options, say, okay, is this something, these are what the studies say right now. Is this something that you're willing to do, or if that something that we should even be considering? And so, it really took a lot of education privately on her part as well as with me. We went to the doctor together. She asked questions, and it kind of went from there as far as just looking at the studies, what the science said, what we both felt comfortable with. Right. Pregnancy wasn't really taken into the account, which it should have been, because obviously when you have a penis, you have a vagina, and there is no birth control, then there is a chance.
Scientist, but
there is a chance.
I saw a vagina, but I'm pretty sure
right. So there's a chance, and so that was one thing we didn't take into account. But
so let me. I'm going to get a little interview here, but you've been on the show before, so you're a regular now. Mm-hmm. But from your time now being an advocate and being out speaking, is HIV part of the conversation between a couple? Is that something that they have? Is it more common now and we just don't know about it?
I would say that it's definitely more common amongst advocates and their partners. Obviously, just because of the nature of the field that we're in, as far as it's important to talk to your partner about HIV, but I think a lot of people are still living in shame about their status, and they don't have those conversations about HIV. Especially heterosexual couples, I don't think that they really have that conversation at all because the main concern is pregnancy. Like STDs really don't come into the picture, and they just look at it because it's still been branded as a gay disease, you know, so they look at it like, why do I need to talk about it? But I think more people are definitely talking about it now than, you know, say 30 years ago or something like that. But at the same time, the majority of people aren't doing it. I definitely feel it's the minority more than the majority.
I find it interesting, and what's your opinion on this, that HIV took a front seat in conversations with your partner in sex, and STDs in children kind of fell in the back a little bit. What's your thought on if you were not positive, would it have been the other way around?
Explain that again. So if I wasn't positive...
Right, your main concern would have been, okay, don't get pregnant.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that would have been my main concern beforehand, and I don't know, I never really saw like a need to discuss HIV or anything like that because I just felt like it didn't affect me. A lot of people who are now positive just kind of felt like, hey, you're invincible, like, hey, I went through so much that, you know, HIV is not going to, you know, affect me. It's something that happens in third world countries, or it's something that happens you know, in places where, you know, they don't have adequate health care and stuff like that, but, you know, not here, certainly. You know, I just didn't really look at, like, if I would have met someone before I was positive, when I was still negative, and they said they were positive, I probably would have ran for the hills. Like, I mean, that's, you know, that's how when I see people post and stuff now, like, hey, this person, you know, said this to me, and this person sent me this message on Grindr, or this person sent me this, and it's like horrible, horrible things. I'm like, I try to look at it from both points of view. You know, I mean, if the person's just trying to be an asshole, I mean, that's a whole other thing. Right. But if the person's just like, hey, I don't want to be with you, you're positive. I mean, it sucks. It hurts now that I'm a positive person to see that affecting other positive people, and it's happened to me as well. Being rejected for my status, it completely sucks. But then I look at it like, okay, that person's probably not educated. This is an opportunity to educate. Right. You know, as far as the person, if they don't want to be educated, okay, well, you can't force a horse to drink water, or whatever the saying is. Like, you can't force the person to get educated. But it's sad, you know, that still happens today. Now,
that's interesting you should touch on that, because I'm always... From the moment that I was diagnosed, I took it upon myself to get educated and find out as much. I mean, I'm going on 16 years. I'm going on 17 years now. And I've been educating and advocating and instigating this whole time. And along those times, I've been single several times. There have been situations where somebody said, I'm just not comfortable. This is before the undetectable thing. I'm not comfortable, and I had to respect that and say, that's cool. It's just like when I stopped drinking and when I stopped smoking and doing drugs, I wasn't comfortable hanging out with somebody who went to the bar every night after work, because I'm not going to go with you, and if we want to spend time together, it's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. I believe it's still just choice. I'm sure there's nothing wrong with a person who has a drink after work every day. They're probably perfectly fine. I'm just not comfortable with it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's my right to choose that. Just like somebody who's negative has a choice to not date somebody who's positive, mm-hmm. or somebody who's had gonorrhea, or somebody has asthma, or somebody has, I don't know, diabetes. It's just a choice. You know, I'd rather not get into that situation because I don't know how to handle it. Mm-hmm. I believe that the responsibility is mine to be better educated, so that in that moment I can say, I get it, that's cool, but before we stop talking, let me just give you some info. And then you can just walk away and choose and make your own decisions later. What's your take on that whole not want to date positive?
Yeah, I mean, it's everybody's choice of who they want to date. I mean, I see a lot of people in the positive community that will say, I will only date someone who's positive, because they've had so many negative experiences with people who are negative. You know, no pun intended there. Positive people, positive, negative. But, you know, as far as I see that a lot, and it's like, okay, you know, sero sorting, this idea that, you know, that we should just stick with this person or we should stick with this person because of their HIV status. And I think it goes both ways, you know. Everybody has a right to choose who they want to date. I think you should date someone based on your feelings for that person rather than their HIV status. Like, you know, if I had, you know, breast cancer or something like that, I wouldn't go and just search out, be like, I can only be with people who've had breast cancer. You know, it's like, you don't date someone based on their medical condition. But at the same time, if someone doesn't want to be with someone who's positive, I respect that too. But I kind of take the same approach of, hey, before we stop talking, I just want, you know, it's kind of like, I guess to kind of like throw the wrench in the wheel type thing of like, hey, you know, you don't want to be with me, but hey, I'm just letting you know you would be totally safe if you were. But at the same time, you know, that way they have hopefully a little bit of information. So maybe they react differently when they meet someone who's positive the next time, even if it's not with me. Maybe they'll meet someone, they'll be like, hey, well, I heard about, you know, undetectable viral load. You know, are you undetectable? And the next thing you know, maybe they don't get with that person, but that person gives them a little bit more info. And down the line, eventually they feel like they're in a place where they could, date someone. You know, I think a lot of people just have these images stuck in their head of the 80s, and maybe they don't know how to support someone living with HIV. They don't know kind of what that's going to entail, relationship-wise. I think with the undetectable equals untransmittable information, that's helping bridge that gap, but at the same time, it's taking a long time just to get accepted by the HIV community itself. There's a lot of internal fighting and stuff like that now, and so until that gets fully accepted within our own community, we can't expect the general public who's negative to accept it, you know. And so it's going to take time, you know. But I feel that, you know, yeah, you should date whoever you want. You should respect people who don't want to date someone who's positive as well. They just maybe not at that point of their life. You don't know what experiences they've had. Maybe they've had really bad experience with someone who's positive. Who knows? You know, it could be anything.
Yeah.
So.
Like, I just say it's preference. Like I only like dating chubby guys. I don't like skinny guys.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a preference. I'm sure there's a lot of really nice skinny guys out there.
Yeah.
But I've always dated chubbers. I like it because
there you go.
It makes me feel better when I'm eating. I don't have to worry about it.
Right.
As long as you're chubbier than me, I'm good.
There you go.
Which that's why I don't like Christian losing weight, because I'm like,
keep the weight, right?
So I'm secretly feeding him tacos when he's asleep, so he doesn't.
Oh gosh. Cupcakes, here you go.
Yeah, while he's asleep, just chew on that, baby.
Yeah.
So what else has been going on? What else has been happening?
Well, I mean, I've continued advocacy through the last couple of years. I mean, I've been positive for, God, it's been 5 years now. It feels like, I know you've been living with it, you know, 16, 17 years, but for me, I mean, 5 years is like a long time. And then it just feels like, you know, it's kind of hard to imagine your life, like, you know, how am I going to be in another 20 years and 30 years? I think it's hard for us as humans to kind of comprehend that, you know. So my advocacy has continued. I've been involved in speaking engagements. I started my own website, Positive Hope, my own nonprofit here in California. I've been going to conferences. And then this year has been especially significant in my advocacy and stuff like that because I came out as bisexual a month and a half ago or something like that. It was a week before San Diego Pride. Week and a half before San Diego Pride. So that's been a huge thing that's happened. That definitely...
I'm going to tap into my ignorance a little bit because a lot of it is legit. And I was kind of nervous about you bringing up the topic. Because,
go for it. I'm an open book.
Because I've been gay all my life. I mean, I was a sissy boy from the time I was little. I knew that I liked boys, and I was comfortable with that. I dated girls, but only because my family wanted to see me with a girl. I know it's not like this, but in my head, I'm like, you just wake up one morning and go, oh, wait a minute, now I get it, which I know it's not like that. And for anybody listening, please, I'm not making lighthearted of it. I just I don't want to get overly serious, but I want to understand better. Was there a process to your life? Was there... I don't know how to ask the question. and not that I'm not trying to be like, I just don't know how to word it right. Was it growing feelings, or was it something that was already there for a long time, but you just were blocking it out? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel that, like, I pretty much knew I had, like, feelings and stuff like that for the same sex probably since maybe I was, like, 10 or 11. I can actually probably think back even further than that. Like, I kissed a boy when I was, like, 6. But that was, kind of like when I was pretty much like a little guy. Like, I mean, I didn't really think anything of it, but I started to actually have like feelings and stuff like that for the same sex when I was like 10 or 11, when I was in like 5th or 6th grade, when you're kind of coming to puberty and you're starting to kind of become more of a young teenager type thing.
Right.
But I never had like any, experiences. I lived in Bakersfield at the time, which, if anybody knows where Bakersfield is, God help you. I don't even want to know where it is anymore. It's Central California. It's very conservative. It's a great town in terms of like people. It's a people town because there's really nothing to do. So you just interact with other people and go to the pool pretty much. But it's also it's known for being a very conservative, Bible-thumping type town that, there's really there's more churches than there are grocery stores type thing, that's just kind of how it is. And so at that time, growing up, I kind of grew up without religion, because my parents came from two distinct, religious backgrounds, so they didn't want to force us into any particular one. And then we went to a Christian church when I was, first moved to California, and from there, then we all became Christian. I later on discovered that in my life and saw if that was really for me, if it's really what I believed, or whatever the case. So I went through that whole separate journey. But because I lived in a very conservative Christian town, that the church taught that, it was a sin, you're going to hell if you do it, or if you act on those feelings, whatever the case, then for me, it definitely got repressed a lot. Especially I was heavily involved in missionary work. Like, I used to preach to kids at my school. I was pretty big into it. So that definitely repressed it, I feel.
Do you think that, because I was raised Catholic and I have my own opinions on religion and sexuality, do you believe that taking on that preacher role, because that's what it sounds like, you were preaching to all these kids, you're taking on this preacher role and then highlighting that was a way of camouflaging your sexuality?
It could be. I mean, I think it was camouflaging a lot of things. During that time, that was when I was going through my substance abuse as well. I started my substance abuse when I was 12 years old to the time I was 18. So the most important time of my life, when you're supposed to be growing and all this stuff happening in your life, I was more interested in drugs. And I definitely used drugs as a way to repress it, I think. Which meth, now that I look at it, probably wasn't the best choice, because I'm staying up thinking about it, and different stuff like that. It makes you up and it makes you stimulate your mind, all this stuff. I mean, on top of that, it's a horrible, horrible drug to begin with. But it was just I was thinking about it more, and it makes you, more sexually,
your inhibitions are lower.
Yeah, but for me, I didn't really act on any of my feelings at that time during my teenage years. They were just feelings that I had. I
would say it's just the drugs speaking.
No, I never said that. I would say I kind of knew, but then I just tried to occupy my time with other stuff, whether it be drugs or going and doing mission work, so that way I wouldn't really give myself time to think about it too much.
Opposite of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm gonna go talk to God, or I'm gonna go talk to drugs.
Yeah, exactly. So it was definitely a way that I repressed it, and then when I got out of my substance abuse, and I moved to San Diego County. When I moved to San Diego County, I kind of wanted to try and experience something. I had an experience, somewhat of not even an experience, someone that I had a crush on that was kind of like my best friend in junior high, and we never really like had any relations, but we like wrestled and different stuff that I thought definitely he was into guys, and but then at the same time he was kind of sending false signals. I ended up getting assaulted. It was a long thing that happened there, but but at the same time I had feelings for girls too, so I was really confused because in my mind it was black and white. You're either gay or you're straight.
Right.
There's no in between. It was just like, okay, I'm just fully not at this level of acceptance yet, which that I struggled with for a long time. So when I moved to San Diego County, I said, well, hey, let me take a chance to actually act on these feelings and have like sexual relations. And to be honest, like I didn't even know where to go. So I went to Craigslist because at the time that was the yeah. So at the time, like honestly, my first experience that I had was with an escort, and it's kind of sad that that's how I lost my same-sex virginity, was with an escort. But at the same time, that was like, I don't know, I just figured I can't go out to like a club. I'm only 18, 18, 19, or maybe 19 by that time, 18 or 19. So I can't go out to a club. I can't like do anything. So I'm just going to and then I didn't want to like meet someone that I don't know, Grindr wasn't a thing yet. Craigslist was like the main thing. I'm like, I don't want to meet up with someone. They like kill me. So I'm like, if it's an escort, then maybe there's like a little bit more validity or whatever.
Well, at least you're paying for their time. I'm not gonna. You can talk about your experience, but I figured that somebody like that, experience like that, could walk you through it a little easier than a random hookup.
Yeah. Yeah, and he was a great guy. I mean, he was a good-looking guy. It was definitely a good, painful time. But, at the time, too much info, but at the same time, it was definitely a good, painful time, but I didn't really know how to so after that, I was like, okay, that was fun, but I don't know if I want to do that again. It was like super painful. It was just different stuff. And then, like a week later, then I was like, hey, maybe I should like start meeting up with like guys. And then I kind of obviously started to learn to find pleasure and enjoy sex and stuff like that, whatever role, I may be playing. But at the same time, it was the beginning of my journey of having experiences, and, through having those experiences, I never really looked at them as anything else besides experiences. Like I never really saw a reason to label myself. And then, it just kind of built up until, now 7-8 years later, where it just got to be too much to handle. And I realized there are benefits and downfalls of labels, but it got to be to the point of my mental health where it was more beneficial for me to put a label and to have that sense of community than it was to kind of keep it a secret. And that's when I kind of really came to term with my bisexuality, as far as so.
Now, again, I'm kind of playing devil's advocate, being ignorant about it, because I know there's probably listeners listening who are either going through it or know somebody going through the situation and go, I don't get it. Like all this time, you've been Josh all this time, and now you're Josh. Like, what happened? You know what I mean? Like, there's like okay, we'll go into that in a minute, but I've known a lot of female friends who were married for a long time, had bad experience with their husbands or their relationships, got out of it, and got into a same-sex relationship with another woman. Did at any moment you think, well, I've had all these experiences with women that didn't turn out well, that maybe it was your way of like protecting yourself, or this wouldn't happen with the guy? And again, I may be completely wrong. I'm just trying to like clarify my own way of thinking.
Yeah, no, I mean, I wouldn't say that it was because of past. Like, honestly, I haven't dated that much. I haven't had that many bad experiences with women that, as far as it was like, hey, I'm going to turn to the other side now. Like Darth Vader, like come to the other side. It wasn't like.
I know it sounds very simplistic, and
yeah.
I don't mean to make it sound that way, but somebody from the outside watching is like, oh, well, he's had a couple of bad experiences, he's going to try guys now. It's just a phase. Pass. You know what I mean? But obviously it's not. But
yeah, no, I think it's. I was very how would I say? I was very leery. Like even when I would have like hookups with guys and stuff like that, like I would never be intimate with somebody. Like I would never kiss. I would never do anything like that because I felt like it was like too much. I felt like I was letting myself open up too much, and like again, it kind of came from repressing and stuff like that. But no, I mean, I definitely don't think it's a phase because I have had the feelings for years. Like I said, since I was 10, since I was 11. So the fact is, since I've had these, I just acted on the experiences. I've realized that, hey, because I wanted to make sure it wasn't just a sexual thing. Right. That it wasn't just like, hey, because there's so many different categories now that technically someone can be defined as bisexual or biromantic. Like, it's so freaking confusing. So, biromantic, like the person could be bisexual, but they could only be romantically attracted to women. So they could be like, well, I like having sex with guys, but I only want to be in a relationship with a woman. And vice versa. It could be the opposite way where you only want to be in relationships with guys and have sex with girls. So,
you kids.
Yeah. So there's so many different like terms now and stuff like that. And that was like a really hard thing to come to terms with. Like, is this just a sexual thing? And the more that I realized, I'm like, hey, no, I find that guy attractive, or I find his personality attractive. I could see myself with this guy. And more than just a sexual way, that's when I really came to terms with my identity. So I kind of put all those feelings together. And if it's a phase, I mean, shoot, I'm going on like 15 years, so it must be the longest phase that I've had happen.
Slow learner, that's okay.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what defines one. I think that's what's attraction about. At least at my age, and I forget how old you are though.
27.
27. So yeah, so there's like 20 years difference between you and I. Because I'm 47. I'll be 47 this year, but. For me, it was all, well, when I was younger, but as an older adult, an older person, I don't know, I got nervous all of a sudden. It was more about, like, attraction is not just the physical attraction. It's about the personality. It's about the way they treat you. It's about their sense of humor. You find all these things and you're like, okay, now I'm attracted to you. Like, now this is good. Mm-hmm. It could be just sex or it could be just companionship. And when you have everything that aligns just right, you're like, oh wow, this person's really, I can see myself with them. So I can see, I understand what you're talking about. It's like to find somebody attractive regardless of their sex or sexuality, but you go, oh wow, this person has, I've marked off all the squares that make this person right for me, regardless of I want to spend time with them. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, with and I think that's the best thing. Like I guess my favorite thing about being bisexual now is that you look beyond gender and beyond gender definition, and you look at the person themselves. I mean, if I really wanted to get technical, I could define myself as pansexual because but nobody knows what the heck that is for the most part.
Do you know?
Pansexual pretty much just means that you don't rule out people who are transsexual or transgendered, or gender but non-binary. So it's a whole other term to refer to. For me, bisexuality is liking my own gender as well as any other gender. Some people are just like, oh, it's just two, it's bi, it comes from the root bi, whatever. And it's like, no, it's not like that. For me, I can be attracted to anyone regardless of their gender or gender identity. So at the same time, I think that's one of the best parts is being able to look beyond that and look at people's personality. And that's one thing since I've came out now, like, because I've told my mom and everything as well, I was like, the next relationship I want to get into, I'd really like to get into it with a guy just because I haven't had that experience of dating a guy yet. And I said, it's not to say if a great girl comes along that, we just click, boom, it couldn't happen like that. But at the same time, I really want it to be a guy just because I want that experience. And I'm kind of learning now of like more than just physically, like what I'm attracted to, like mentally and emotionally and spiritually, so those are kind of been my focus and stuff now.
So does it translate from, and now that we've mentioned also the trans community and everything, and everything that's umbrellaed under there.
Mm-hmm.
Say, for instance, like we talked earlier about, I'm from Texas and I like the bubbas. I like somebody with a pickup truck, and I like somebody who's rough around the edges and likes to eat some ribs and has a tacky sense of humor, because my sense of humor is pretty tacky, and laughs at fart jokes and likes to sit on the couch all day. That's, to me, I am in love. I'm happy, and I'm very fortunate that I found a guy in California that almost fits the Bubba lifestyle. He's right there, except for the pickup. We're working on that.
Yeah.
In your case, first off, was there a type of female that you were attracted to? And then, does that translate into male? Is there a similarity, or does your taste really just like you like the thinner girls, but then maybe a bigger boy, or you know what I mean? Just
no, it kind of translates. I mean, in the sense that like I'm like a sucker for Latina girls that are like traditional Latina girls.
In the name of all Latinos, we are pretty hot.
Yeah.
I'll just say that.
And so that definitely translates. Like I tend to find Latino guys usually very attractive. I would say, yeah, I like thinner. I definitely like thinner girls, thinner guys, but not like super. Like, I like someone that has some meat on their bones. Like I don't want them to be like anorexic or something like that, because that's just no fun for anybody. It's not healthy. And for me, the main thing with me is like I don't really care if someone's like a little bit bigger, as long as they're like. For me, like right now, I work out on a regular basis because, for one, because of my mental health. Like it helps my depression. If I don't go to the gym, I am totally screwed with my depression. So that, and then on top of that, I just kind of want to prove to myself that I can, I don't know, like get some muscles. I don't want to be muscle builder of the year, but I just want to like do something different, like and be healthy, and feel good about myself. And, working out's not the only way to do that, but I definitely feel like, keeping some sort of regular exercise, whether it's just walking or something like that. I mean, that's all important stuff to do. So for me, as long as the person, whether it be the girl or the guy, is healthy, they're taking active steps in their life to be healthy, whether that be working out, going to the gym all the time, or just going for walks, or like doing stuff outdoors, just stuff that's like healthy. So like somewhat of a focus on fitness and stuff like that, then that's important to me. But now, at the same time, I'm 27, and I've kind of moved past like all the party years, for me, the physical's only part of the equation. I wouldn't even say it's the majority of the equation. It's mainly, if it's for a hookup, that's a whole other thing. Then it's like, that's all I'm focusing on for the most part, because it's like, you're going to be here for 30 minutes and then you're going to leave, I don't have to worry about seeing the person again. But if I really am wanting to get to know the person, like dating wise and stuff like that, then that's different. Then I'll look at more of the emotional, just kind of where they're at, if they have goals going on in their life, that's main thing for me, is to see drive in other people's life. I don't want someone that's just like sitting there, has no car, that's just like going and has no goal or plan for their life. They're just kind of like doing whatever, it's like I want someone that has direction. So, yeah.
Well, we're kind of at the point where we do our words of wisdom to the audience. I admire you. I admire, before you go into your words of wisdom, you have been through a lot, and there's a lot more that we probably won't be able to touch on this episode, so we'll come back and talk about other stuff. But you've been through a lot in the time that I've met you. Physical, emotional, yet you keep this really suave balance. And I know, like most advocates, we make it look really easy, but nobody really knows what's going on behind. And I think that's part of being a really good advocate, is that we don't put our face up front for pity, we put it for others. Like we're the face for other people, so they can hurt in private, we'll make, we'll put the face out there. You guys keep it cool. You guys keep it cool, and we'll do the work.
Mm-hmm.
And I've only recently come to terms with that it's okay that some of us are meant to be upfront speaking, and some people are cheers on. So I just want to say I admire you for that.
I appreciate it.
I think that you carry yourself very dignified, and every step that you make is a step in the right. It's a step for growth. Right direction is misleading, but everything you do is in an effort to make yourself grow and be better. And I think that it shows in your work. So
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Awesome. But what are your words of wisdom to the folks listening? And you can go in any direction you want.
Okay, that leaves it pretty broad. I'm trying to figure out now where I want to go with it.
Well, let's talk to somebody out there who's dealing with their sexuality or trying to figure out where they fit in.
When it comes to sexuality, I would say that listen to your heart. Don't let other people tell you who you are, or as far as don't let other people tell you who you are, where you should go in life, or what's best for your life. Only you know yourself the best. And sometimes that takes time to figure out, and that's totally fine. For myself, coming to terms with my bisexual identity took, like I said, like 15 years, something like that, and I came out very publicly. Not everybody has to do that. If you're somebody that, even if you tell one person, that's going to be a huge weight off of your shoulders. You don't have to come out and, come riding into Pride on a unicorn to be looked at like, that's my way of coming out type thing. Everybody's different, and there's no right or wrong way to do it. The only thing I do suggest is that you are in a safe environment when you do it. I mean, obviously, if you feel like you're going to be at a risk for violence or at a risk for being kicked out or something like that, then at that time, I would say it's most likely best to wait until, a better time, where you'll be in a lot safer place. But I definitely feel, sexuality-wise, don't feel bad if it takes you a long time. I've watched videos of people in their 90s coming out, and just imagine how relieving that must be, and then how painful that must have been for that person to keep it in their whole entire life, to not really be able to, and everybody's different. Some people, maybe they know and they just don't want to come out. Some people, maybe they're still trying to figure things out. And imagine that person their whole entire life trying to figure things out, or maybe that person's known and now they're in their 90s and they're having to come out. I mean, that's just the fact that we live in a place where we can come out without the societal threat of being killed or something like that. Like in some other countries, it's terrible, but at the same time, we have a freedom here to do it. So take advantage of it when you feel comfortable to do so, and don't feel pressured by anybody else, as far as to come out sooner than you need to.
Why now?
Why now? For myself coming out?
Yeah. And I'm starting to get away from the. I don't know that it's this is just a person. Why not be yourself? Because I think coming out is kind of like, but you finally discovered, like, this is who I am, and I just want to be myself.
Mm-hmm.
So why now be all you and not just part of you? Does that make sense?
Yeah, maybe it's more to do with, freedom, having a freeing feeling of, it's like I feel like our minds are our own worst enemy at times. And so for myself, it's like, what are the opportunities, what opportunities might I be missing out on because I'm not out? What good things could happen in my life that may never happen because I'm not out? What is it? I'm trying to figure out exactly how to word it. But pretty much just like this freeing feeling of being able to be authentically me, and to be myself, because I feel I identify as someone who's codependent, especially after this last relationship, and I've lived a lot of my life for other people, for whether it be in advocacy, or just in my own personal life. I live a lot for other people and what makes other people happy, as opposed to what makes myself happy. And I think I reached that point where I was like, I need to be happy myself, and I reached the point in my spiritual journey where, hey, I've come to terms with my higher being, with my God, of what sexuality means to me, and this is exactly the way that He made me. That's exactly it. So for me, it's a matter of, I've reached this point in my life of my spirit. I guess I've reached a point of kind of being whole in a way in all aspects of my health, in terms of, physical. I've taken a lot, better steps towards improving my physical health now. Emotional health, I've really worked through, the feelings of, dating with HIV and, and dealing with mental health and stuff like that on a constant basis. And then also the spiritual journey that I've been on as well. So I've kind of reached a point where, like, all those things have reached a full point where I can really say, okay, this is the last piece that's missing for me to really be able to be whole. I don't know what it's going to bring. I don't know, sexuality wise, people say, well, who do you think you could see yourself married to in the future? I said, I don't know. I don't even know if marriage is in the future. That's just,
Right.
I have no clue, but at the same time, I know I have a very, I can't say no because it hasn't happened, but I have a very strong feeling I would still identify as bisexual because of the fact that I have the capacity to have feelings for the multiple genders. So, it's the wholeness aspect and the freeing aspect of it.
All I can tell you is somebody much older.
You don't look it though.
I know, I'm terrible. Please. Live every moment, and I'm sure you probably heard this from others, but just live every moment, cherish every moment. Don't get caught up in other people's expectations. The journey is so amazing of discovering oneself. Coming from knowing who I was at such a young age, finally growing into myself at 17, and then now 30 years later, being really comfortable in who I am. It's a long journey usually to get there. I've never seen anybody that goes from discovering themselves to full comfort zone in short time.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't even want to call it advice. My just suggestion is enjoy every moment of this process, and let your heart and let your gut feeling and let your intuition be the guide to the person that is meant for you or that you're meant for. And just be open to any experiences out there. The beautiful thing about it is that you know how to take care of yourself. You know how to take care of the other person. From what I know about you, you know how to love intensely. You have such beautiful feelings. Just live every moment and don't let anybody limit you or pigeonhole you into something that you don't feel comfortable in. And I think you'll have an amazing journey. You have such wonderful things coming ahead of you. So
yeah, no, I definitely appreciate that.
So, I know I have one more question, and I just forgot about it. I should have written it down. What are your goals? What's your next move?
My next move is kind of along those lines to work through this coming out process. I actually started seeing a therapist again. That's at a local LGBT center that understands LGBT issues and stuff like that. So I guess when I first came out, I thought, the after process would be like automatic, like, oh my God, I feel like a free bird. I can just fly, and there is a sense of freedom and everything. There is a sense, but it's definitely not, and everybody's experience will be different. For some people, it might be like that, but for myself, it's been really a process of like, okay, so now what happens? Like, now I came out, so now, like, what do I do from here? And now it's just a process of like, okay, you continue living your life, and so Like I joined the local LGBT organization at my college. I've been going to LGBT support groups because I feel it's really important during this time to like surround myself with the LGBT community, for support. And because now it's like I can be a lot more open and stuff like that, so that's been really cool to be able to go, network and stuff. And then for now, I'm continuing my, journey with that as well as with college. I have, another 2 years of my undergrad, and then after that I'll be hopefully going on for my doctorate in clinical psychology, or social work, or piloting. One of the three. I really don't have to decide at this point. All I know is I'm getting my undergrad in psychology, and from there it's a very versatile degree in the sense of that I'll be able to use it in many different aspects and branch off, and so as far as just going to college full time, and I'm starting to do a lot more in person. I was more of a social media advocate before, and I still do social media advocacy. I think it's really a big aspect, but I'm trying to focus more as well on like local things, like in-person things as well, because I feel that's really, it adds a lot to advocacy when you do that, in addition to doing the stuff online as well. So like I've been helping gather medicine from local people here to send for people in Venezuela right now for the just stuff like that, like doing in-person stuff that's doing more than just raising awareness, which both are needed, and so like, and doing volunteer work at local LGBT organizations. I want to get certified for HIV testing hopefully this year. And that will hopefully happen through volunteering at the LGBT organizations. I'll be able to go to a training or something like that. I'd rather have them pay for it than me.
Well, I was sponsored.
Yeah, and that would be awesome because it's like I really want to help people through that time. And so those are kind of the next steps for myself in terms of growth. And
how much happier are you now?
I don't know, I would love to say like 10 out of 10. I would say like I'm like 4 or 5 times. I'm like half happier than I was before. So I think that's good for only being like a month in. Like I literally went from like coming out to like marching in front of 200,000 people at the head of the Pride March in San Diego. That was probably like a 20 out of 10. Like I've probably never been happier. I can't say I've never been happier, but it was one of the highest moments of my life as far as in happiness wise. But yeah, I definitely feel happier, and I think with the days as they go by, I think it's going to increase, and I feel like I'm really, I'm just like you said, enjoying the process. Like I'm not really expecting anything of it. Like right now I'm just working through the therapy and everything, and when a relationship happens, a relationship will happen. I'm not going to go out and like go actively looking for one right now, but then at the same time I'm not just going to like be like, no, I'm not wanting to see anybody right now. I'm open for experiences, like for, and not like sexual hookup experiences, just like in terms of like dates and doing that kind of fun stuff, just doing something different. So for me, it's about living, time by time now. So.
Well, you look a lot less intense than you did in Chicago.
Yeah, it was probably the cold there too, though.
Sure, let's put it cold. But you look more relaxed now. Even from the time that we first met, you just had this really serious look on your face all the time. Like there was always something working in your brain. And I remember telling somebody like, it's just so intense, and like I never want I whenever we talk in an interview, like I feel like you can't crack up with him because he's so intense. But your energy, and my audience knows I work with all the energy stuff. Your energy is so much more fluid. It's just your facial expressions are softer. You're not up in your head the whole time. I always felt like you were watching what you would say. Like you were really careful about what you said or what you did. Like everything was so practiced, and now you're just like you look chill.
Yeah.
Or maybe because we're in your house, in your bedroom.
No, I mean, I definitely feel like I feel like because I used to be a person that laughed like a lot more. Like I was always like the class clown. I was always like, and I even was talking to my mom about that the other day. I said, I feel like I've lost a lot of myself through everything that I've been through, not only with the battle with, coming to terms with my sexuality, but the substance abuse, my leg, the HIV, the diagnosis, of depression and dealing with the ups and downs of that, of the past relationship, of dating someone with mental health issues. Like, I've been through so much. I feel like that it really made me bitter in a lot of ways, but I know the sexuality and coming to terms with it was like a big thing. That was kind of like I pushed so far into the bottom of my mind. So now that it's out, now I feel like I can like start to laugh again and like start to, kind of like live more, like I think we did a reading when I was, when we were in Chicago and stuff like that. And, one of the things was like breathe, and so now I feel like I can breathe again, and I think one of the first times that we did a reading and stuff like that, it was actually one of the cards that came out was coming out, which I remember that to this day when you pulled out that card and I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, why is this card coming out? And that was like years ago, but now years later, it's like I can breathe, it's like I feel like I've got my life back and I'm little by little, it's not going to happen overnight, but it's a process, but just enjoying the journey as I go along. And I'm a lot more chillaxed now.
Well, thank you for letting me visit.
No worries.
Bringing me out here to, Monroe?
Huh?
Was it Marietta?
Yeah. I was going to say, we're in Vegas right now, right?
It's freaking hot
Marietta.
out here, by the way. He brought me out here at 108 degrees from a beautiful Laguna Beach to Marietta at 108 degrees. But thank you for inviting me.
No worries.
And a big hello to your mom, who I'm sure will listen to this later.
Yep.
She was on the show a couple years ago, and I finally got to meet her in person, and she's so sweet. So
awesome. All right.
Awesome. Thank you. So for everybody listening, I hope you got as much out of this conversation as I did, because I definitely was able to sit with somebody that I like and I trust, and I was comfortable enough to ask the stupid questions that I've had in my head forever. Thanks, Josh.
No worries.
We're going to do this again, I'm sure.
Yes.
For everybody listening, your website, your information.
It's positivehope.com, P-O-Z, with a Z as in zebra, I-T-I-V, hope.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all that stuff. Yeah.
And we will have all that on the Facebook page, so make sure you look for it. And then coming soon, we'll have some of the links up on the Little Mexican Productions.com page. I feel so good saying that. It's just okay. It cost me a lot of money to buy my name, but I got it.
It's worth it.
For everybody listening, thank you again to Mr. Moyers for all his support and help. Thank you, sir. Inviting everybody to visit us at abnormalentertainment.com. Check out the show, all the shows on the network. Find me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter at Little Mexican, LILMESICAN, for all the information on my guests, videos, pictures, stuff that's going on. You'll find it all there. Josh, thank you again.
Thank you.
For Abnormal Entertainment and Little Mexican Productions, this is Daniel Garza saying, hey, put it together.
I wanna break through, I wanna be free from this darkness and misery. I'm running away, running away. I'm running away, running away. Struggling to find me.
Subscribe to Put It Together on iTunes, Stitcher, and at abnormalentertainment.com/putittogether. Find Put It Together on Facebook and tweet Daniel at Lil Messican, LILMESICAN. And for more podcasts, comics, books, movies, and more, head to abnormalentertainment.com.
You've been listening to the Abnormal Entertainment Network.